In a decision that reverberated worldwide, the United States Supreme Court has delivered a historic verdict that is sending shockwaves through the global economic landscape. The ruling, which has been closely watched by governments, businesses, and citizens alike, marks a pivotal moment in the ongoing debate over America's role in international trade and economic policy. The U.S. Supreme Court has officially struck down the Trump-era tariffs, a move that many experts say will have far-reaching consequences for both domestic industries and international partners. These tariffs, once a cornerstone of recent American trade strategy, have now been deemed unconstitutional, ending a controversial and defining chapter in American trade policy. For years, these tariffs shaped the way the United States interacted with the world, affecting everything from the price of everyday goods to the stability of global supply chains. The decision to overturn them signals a dramatic shift in the nation's approach to trade, and it's a development that will be analyzed for years to come. The October 3, 2025 ruling dismantles a core piece of the America First agenda, which prioritized domestic manufacturing and sought to protect American jobs through aggressive trade barriers. With this decision, the Supreme Court has not only altered the legal landscape, but also challenged the very philosophy that guided U.S. trade policy in recent years. The ruling is forcing a dramatic reset in global trade relationships. Countries that once faced steep tariffs on their exports to the U.S. are now re-evaluating their strategies, and new opportunities for cooperation and competition are emerging on the world stage. For years, tariffs on steel, aluminum, and a wide range of Chinese goods reshaped supply chains, prompting companies to rethink where and how they source materials. American manufacturers, workers, and consumers all felt the impact, as prices fluctuated and industries adapted to new realities. These tariffs raised costs for businesses and consumers alike, leading to higher prices on everything from cars to household appliances. The policy also triggered global retaliation, with other nations imposing their own tariffs on American goods, escalating trade tensions and uncertainty. Now, the court's decision challenges the extent of presidential power in shaping trade policy. By ruling that such sweeping tariffs require congressional approval, the Supreme Court has redefined the balance of power between the executive and legislative branches. This landmark decision reasserts Congress's authority over trade and sets a powerful precedent for future administrations. Lawmakers will now play a more direct role in crafting the nation's trade policies, ensuring greater oversight and debate. International markets responded with cautious optimism. Investors are watching closely as the U.S. reopens its doors to global trade, hoping for increased stability and growth. However, uncertainty remains as industries and governments adjust to the new legal framework. World leaders are preparing for renewed diplomacy, eager to rebuild relationships and negotiate new agreements. The end of the tariffs opens the door for fresh dialogue and collaboration, but also presents new challenges as countries seek to protect their own interests. The sudden removal of trade barriers means industries must quickly adapt to a rapidly changing environment. Companies are reassessing supply chains, renegotiating contracts, and exploring new markets to stay competitive in this evolving landscape. With both risks and opportunities ahead, business leaders are weighing their options carefully. Some sectors may benefit from cheaper imports and expanded markets, while others could face increased competition and pressure to innovate. This ruling will impact prices at the checkout counter, jobs in factories and offices, and the strength of America's global partnerships. Consumers may see relief from rising costs, while workers and businesses brace for a period of adjustment and transformation. As the dust settles, the nation faces a new era, one that will be shaped in boardrooms where strategies are set, on factory floors where goods are made, and in the halls of Congress where laws are written and debated. The coming months will test the resilience and adaptability of American industry and government as leaders work to define the country's new economic direction. The world is watching as the U.S. redefines its economic role, with allies and rivals alike eager to see how America's next moves will shape the global order. The story of what comes next is just beginning. As policymakers, businesses, and citizens chart a new course, the decisions made today will echo for generations. Stay tuned as we break down how we got here, what this Supreme Court decision means for the future of trade, and how it could affect you, your job, and your wallet in the days ahead. To truly grasp the significance of today's Supreme Court ruling, We need to take a step back and revisit the origins of the tariffs that have shaped recent American economic policy. The story begins in 2018, when the Trump administration launched a series of sweeping tariffs, arguing that these measures would protect American jobs, revive struggling industries, and strengthen national security. President Trump's bold move was framed as a way to put America first. He signed executive orders and made public statements promising to bring back manufacturing and restore the country's economic might. Steel and aluminum imports from key allies like Canada and the European Union were suddenly hit with tariffs under the justification of national security. This sparked immediate controversy, with critics questioning the logic and allies expressing outrage. Prices for these materials quickly rose, impacting everything from construction to car manufacturing. Other countries didn't sit idly by. Retaliatory tariffs from China, the EU, and others struck back at American products, especially agricultural goods. This escalation led to mounting tensions and uncertainty for U.S. exporters, particularly farmers who saw their markets shrink overnight. The trade war intensified as the U.S. imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars in Chinese goods, citing unfair trade practices and intellectual property theft. The economic tit-for-tat sent shockwaves through global supply chains, affecting businesses and consumers worldwide. China responded in kind, targeting U.S. agriculture and manufacturing. American farmers, especially soybean growers, faced plummeting exports and financial hardship. Manufacturers struggled with disrupted supply chains and rising costs, leading to layoffs and factory closures in some regions. While a handful of U.S. producers benefited from reduced foreign competition, many more industries faced higher input costs, lost overseas markets, and increased uncertainty. Consumers also felt the pinch as prices for everyday goods began to climb. The tariffs quickly became a flashpoint in American politics, dividing lawmakers, business leaders, and the public. Supporters hailed them as necessary protection, while opponents warned of long-term economic damage and global isolation. This contentious legacy set the stage for a series of legal battles, as businesses and trade groups challenged the administration's authority to impose such sweeping tariffs. These disputes ultimately made their way to the highest court in the land. The impact of Trump's trade war was deep, complex, and far-reaching, touching nearly every sector of the American economy and leaving a lasting mark on global trade relations. Now, after years of debate and uncertainty, the legal reckoning has finally arrived, with the Supreme Court's decision poised to shape the future of American trade policy. The road to the Supreme Court was paved by years of lawsuits from businesses claiming presidential overreach. At the heart, does the Constitution give Congress, not the president, the power to regulate foreign trade and tariffs? Conflicting lower court rulings on the president's authority and procedural missteps made Supreme Court review inevitable. Billions of dollars and the balance of power were at stake as the nation's highest court stepped in. The Supreme Court's 6-3 decision, led by Chief Justice Roberts, declared the administration's use of national security to justify tariffs and overreach. The ruling reasserts Congress's constitutional role in trade and limits executive power. On China tariffs, the court found the administration failed to follow required procedures, providing relief for importers. The dissent warned this could weaken presidential flexibility, but the majority insisted on checks and balances. The immediate aftermath is a mix of relief and anticipation, as many in the business world breathe a sigh of relief after months of uncertainty. There's a sense of celebration among executives and employees who have been waiting for clarity, but also a recognition that big changes are on the horizon. At the same time, there's disruption rippling through the economy. Businesses that rely on importing steel, aluminum, and a wide range of Chinese goods are now able to access these materials at lower costs, which could help them recover from previous financial strain. Importers and exporters are celebrating the prospect of reduced expenses, and many are optimistic that these savings will help them expand operations, hire more workers, and invest in new projects. For consumers, this could mean lower prices on everyday goods, especially electronics and household items, as retailers pass on some of the savings. Shoppers may soon notice discounts and special offers as stores compete for their business. However, domestic producers, especially those in the steel and aluminum industries, are bracing for renewed foreign competition. many workers and managers are concerned about job security and the future of their companies as cheaper imports flood the market. The government now faces mounting pressure to step in and support these affected industries. Policymakers are discussing potential aid packages, retraining programs, and other measures to help workers and businesses adjust to the new landscape. On the global stage, allies like the European Union and Canada are responding positively. They are beginning to lift retaliatory tariffs that were imposed during the trade dispute, signaling a return to more cooperative international relations. These moves are being celebrated by exporters who are hopeful that restored access to foreign markets will boost sales and drive economic growth. U.S. exporters in particular are looking forward to new opportunities abroad. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that the normalization of trade could result in billions of dollars in annual economic gains, benefiting businesses and workers across the country. As trade barriers fall and markets open up, analysts are watching closely to see how quickly the benefits will materialize and how different sectors will respond to the changes. The key question now is, how quickly can supply chains adapt to the new rules and realities? Companies are already working to reconfigure their logistics, renegotiate contracts, and secure new suppliers. The transition is underway, but it won't be without challenges. Some businesses will need to overhaul their operations, while others may find new opportunities for growth and innovation. The stakes are high, and the coming months will be critical as companies, workers, and governments navigate this new era of global trade. The world is watching to see who adapts fastest and who comes out ahead. The court's decision will ripple through every corner of America. Consumers can expect gradual price drops on everyday goods as tariffs disappear. In industrial towns, the loss of tariffs brings anxiety for workers who saw them as job savers. Farmers, however, are optimistic. Retaliatory tariffs are lifting, and export markets may reopen. Ports and logistics hubs brace for a surge in imports, with potential for both job growth and new bottlenecks. The effects are complex, relief for some, uncertainty for others. This single ruling links the fate of factory workers, farmers, and dock workers nationwide. America's economic landscape is shifting fast. America's trading partners are welcoming the court's decision as a return to rules-based trade. The EU, Canada, and Japan express optimism for renewed cooperation. China, while cautious, signals willingness to negotiate, but the US-China relationship remains uncertain. Developing nations and global organizations like the IMF see new opportunities as supply chains stabilize. Yet, companies are unlikely to fully reverse their recent diversification away from China. The world has learned the risks of overconcentration. The tariff war may be over, but its legacy is a more fragmented, complex global economy. A new era of trade and new challenges has begun. Economists largely praise the ruling, predicting lower inflation and stronger growth. Business leaders welcome the end of what they called a self-imposed tax. Labor unions and manufacturing groups warn of job losses and urge Congress to act. Legal scholars highlight the decision's significance for the separation of powers, limiting presidential authority in trade. The Secretary of Commerce pledges a smooth transition and support for affected industries. The debate over how to balance open trade with protecting American jobs is far from over. The ruling is a turning point, but not the final word. The nation's economic future now depends on what policymakers do next. The Supreme Court's decision opens a new chapter in American trade. Relief for some, uncertainty for others, the long-term impact depends on what comes next. Congress and the White House must now craft a modern trade strategy that balances global competition with support for American workers. Public awareness and engagement are crucial. These issues affect everyone. Stay informed, join the conversation, and make your voice heard. The future of American trade policy belongs to all of us.